What's up, America? Well, government has made a new warning for the eclipse. Now they're saying no trucks allowed on the highways due to the solar eclipse. Mostly commercial trucks. Not kidding on this. Now all of a sudden, on top of all of the warnings they've given you about the internet's going down, the grocery stores and the gas, you're not going to be able to get groceries, you're not going to be able to get gas. You need to make sure you have a line to your family members, that you're not going to be able to travel on the roads and run your errands. The local services aren't going to work properly. Now they're saying our commercial trucks can't even be on the roads during this eclipse. What the heck is going to happen during this eclipse, guys? I don't know if anybody is taking this lightly, but at this point, with warnings like this, something's going to happen. And it ain't going to be no eclipse. I don't care how they're going. I don't know how they're going to go about it, but whatever. This is not for a simple eclipse. For something that a sun and a moon goes over, aligns and makes a shadow over the earth, and that is supposed to cause so much interruption to now not even our commercial vehicles can be on the road. Mm-mm. Stay safe, America.
Hey YouTube world, Harvest is plenty of hope all as well. Thanks for stopping by to check out the video. I wanted to put up this solar eclipse warning update because we're only a few days away from the path of totality. And there's been a lot of events that have been happening over the past couple of weeks. That's all in the news. I'm sure you guys have heard about the bridge collapse in Baltimore and also the other bridges that were hit in the United States that got little media coverage. That was a concert attack in Russia where I believe upwards of 100 people or more were killed. Some type of active shooter attack. I think those attacks may occur in America, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in some upcoming videos. And then the current rage is that's going on now is about Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, and about his sex trafficking stuff and the police raiding his houses. And I will do a video about that as well. So stay tuned for that. But today I want to talk about the path of totality, the solar eclipse coming up on April 8th, and issue another warning for everybody in terms of being prepared in the physical world and also being prepared in the spiritual world. So what is going to be taking place, and why do I want to issue this warning? Because there are a number of things that's going to be happening. For one, are you guys familiar with the cicada bugs? The cicadas are coming back out. And not only are the cicadas coming back out, but it's going to be two unique species of cicadas that's coming out. It's going to result in trillions of cicadas in the United States. It's going to appear during the month of April. Some people are calling it a plague. And everything that I'm talking about, I have video coming so you can see it. CERN is getting restarted up on April 8th. Isn't that a coincidence that on the day of the eclipse that CERN has been testing their stuff out since March, and they're going to restart their Hadron Collider to possibly open up a portal. Who knows? But they're getting restarted on April 8th. Also, NASA will be shooting 3 rockets into the sky, 1, 2, 3, on April 8th. There's also something called the Devil's Comet that will appear in the sky on April 8th during the eclipse. So when it's going to be darkened, you're going to see a bright comet in the sky that will be illuminated, and it's called the Devil's Comet. Isn't that interesting? Huh. There's talk about cell phone coverage across the United States being shoddy. I may go down during April 8th. So like in New York, they're talking to people about cell phone coverage and emergency backup plans and things like that. In Texas, they're saying that during the eclipse, that ERCOT, their solar power will go down from around 90% to around 8%. And they're not expecting any disruptions, but they want the people in the state of Texas to be prepared and to have generators and all kind of other backup power just in case. Isn't that interesting? Also, there's been a lot of chatter with police departments across the country of possible terrorist attacks. You know, there's going to be so many people in one place all across America looking up into the sky at the eclipse. And with so many people in one place, that's possibly an opportunity for bad actors to show up and do something devious. So if you are going out to watch the solar eclipse, please be careful. I have some friends, their kids are driving to go see the eclipse, and I told my friend, I said, man, make sure your daughters are safe, and use these precautionary methods that I discussed with him or whatever. And all we can really do is pray for everybody and pray for our kids, and leave it to God's hands and let him and his angels surround us and protect us, really. And what else is going on? The National Guard has been put on alert in Oklahoma and a lot of other states to help with traffic and also to be prepared in case anything happens. Many mayors, city council members, and governors are telling people in these cities that the eclipse is coming through, that they should store extra gas, food, ice, water, cash, to have a backup communications plan, so on and so forth, which I thought was also interesting for a regular eclipse, that they would go that far as declaring states of emergencies and telling people to stock up on food, water, and everything else, as if they know something is coming. Maybe not so on April 8th, but maybe a little bit after April 8th. And I know they say it's because thousands and thousands of people are coming to these towns and these cities, and they're going to buy up everything. And that's probably true. But I just thought it was a little interesting as well. And so let's jump into some of this video and take a look at some of the things I was talking about.
All right, so you may have seen this on your social media feeds. Cicadas are expected to emerge this spring. It's an occurrence that's been called once in a lifetime. So the cicada explosion will see two different broods, one that lives on a 13-year cycle and another on a 17-year cycle. And by the way, that hasn't happened since 1803. According to experts, some trillion cicadas will begin to appear in late April, and they'll stick around for about 6 weeks. I know you may be wondering, what about our area? Well, here in North Georgia, the 13-year group is expected to buzz around until July. So get ready for that.
Cell phone coverage may be a challenge that day. While we are surging resources in terms of additional coverage, and while we are basically expanding the bandwidth that 911 could use, it is possible that cell phones get a bit overloaded. If that happens, remember that 911 will continue to work. 911 works even when our cell phone grid is overloaded, but only use 911 for true emergencies. Being stuck in traffic, if you are okay, is not a true emergency.
The upcoming solar eclipse is not the only unique sight you will be able to see in the sky. A horned comet will be visible during the eclipse on April 8th. It's also called the Devil's Comet. It travels around the sun once every 71 years, similar to Halley's Comet. Gets its name due to its unusual shape. Stargazers also say it looks like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, Ed.
Total solar eclipse is just 8 days away, and NASA announced that they will launch 3 rockets during the eclipse. The rockets will help scientists study how Earth's upper atmosphere is affected during the phenomenon. The rockets were also launched during last year's annular solar eclipse. They were recovered in New Mexico. The total solar eclipse is happening on April 8th, and the next one isn't until 2044. So scientists are taking advantage of the rare opportunity to collect important data.
finally worked out why you were all asking me if we are restarting the LHC on April 8th. Hi, my name is Clara and I am a particle physicist working on the Atlas experiment at CERN. In fact, I've just finished a night shift in our control room. I've now finally understood why I'm getting these messages saying, are you starting the LHC on April 8th? It's because the solar eclipse in the US also happens to be on April the 8th. Just to let you know, well, the LHC is already back on. We've been having beams back in the accelerator since the beginning of March, specifically March 8th, and we have been commissioning the Large Hadron Collider, which means checking that all of the settings and everything's running properly before we do the collisions for data taking. So we have already been doing test collisions, but it's the regular running that starts on April the 8th. It just happens to coincide with an astronomical event, so the timing is a pure coincidence.
So these are all things that make you go, Now here's what I would like to see, what I prefer to see. I prefer that April 8th just be a regular normal day, a non-eventful day other than the eclipse. I would like for people to go out, if they do decide to go out, and enjoy the eclipse, watch it, have fun, take pictures, take video, and then travel back safely home. I don't want anything happening to anyone, no accidents, no terrorist attacks, nothing. No cell phone outages, no power outages, not anything. But what I want and what happens in the world are two different things. My time is not God's time. I do not work for the enemy, and so I know there's a lot of bad actors out there who are always planning something day and night. And so we must always be prepared as well for anything that could possibly happen. You guys have been warned for a long time now to make sure that you have food, water, supplies, backup power, the ability to cook the food on in case there's no power, communication plans, medical stuff, the training, farms and protection, all of this stuff for many people on many different channels, because I'm sure you watch other channels as well. But just stay prepared. I'm going to leave you with something else that happened on April 8th. You guys have heard of Aleister Crowley. I've covered him on my channel many a times. Mr. 666, the guy who practiced homosexuality, he practiced human sacrifices, he practiced a lot. He said he was the most wickedest man alive. He has a book called the Book of the Law. The Book of the Law was channeled on April 8th. I talked about him and Jack Parsons. When I talked about Ron Hubbard and Scientology and how they did this event called Babylon Working, where they opened up a portal and couldn't close it, and a lot of other things. If you haven't seen that, go back and look at the videos that I did on Scientology. But his book, the Book of the Law, Do As Thou Wilt, not the Lord's will, but do as your will be done on earth, was channeled on April 8th. So that's another coincidence. So I will leave you with that information. I love you guys. Stay prayed up. Stay under God's covering. Until my next video, talk to you soon. May God continue to bless you and your family.
With a brief warning about some heavy weather that's coming up in the spiritual plane in the next few weeks. Almost the whole world now knows about what's coming up on April 8th, that we're having this solar eclipse. And there's been a lot of people talking about different things and concerning it. And of course, it's a big deal astronomically. And of course, down to the centuries, eclipses and comets, things like that have always been considered to be omens and signs of incredible dark spiritual power. So again, you can imagine that this is going to be used by the evildoers to amp up their power to try and attack. But there's something different about this that many of you may not know. April 8th every year is a major feast of some satanic groups that are called Thelema, which is the Greek word for will. They're followers of Aleister Crowley, whom we've talked about numerous times on this channel. He was probably the most evil Satanist of the 20th century. And what happened was, just real quickly, in 1904, he had an experience where his wife, he had just recently married this woman, Rose Kelly, and they were on their honeymoon in Egypt, in Cairo, and she went into a trance and started delivering this document, which is called the Liber Alvel Legis, the Book of the Law. And this was on April 8th, 1904. And for 3 days, she sat there and delivered, quote unquote, 3 chapters to this, it's like a satanic Bible. And I've talked about it more in other places. I don't want to spend the time on it now. But the important thing is, because of this, later on in his life, Crowley died in 1947, but he declared those 3 days to be sacred holy days for the Thelema cult. And they're called the equinox of the gods, these 3 days. And notice that the first day of this satanic feast is when the solar eclipse is. So this kind of creates a double whammy, if you will, because while not all satanic groups are followers of Crowley, a large number of them are. And I used to be a Crowley. I used to be a member of the OTO back in the 70s before I got out of that and Yeshua got me saved. But so I know all this stuff. And I want you to understand that there's an incredibly dark energy going on from this equinox of the gods. It's not an astronomical equinox. Crowley, who is really an egomaniac, he just decided, I'm going to make my own equinox. And so he made this into a major feast day of the Thelemic calendar, and all sorts of rituals and things are done. And because it's coinciding with this solar eclipse, it's especially high energy evil. And Christians and intercessors need to be aware of this stuff, because it's not just going to be another equinox. It's not just going to be another solar eclipse, which happens, every few years or so. It's going to be a confluence of 2 dark powers. Now, on the other hand, Jeremiah warns us, the prophet, that we are not to be dismayed at signs in the heavens, because this is what the heathen do. But what we do need to be not necessarily dismayed about, but aware of, is that the heathen, quote unquote, who include, black magicians and Satanists and witches, all view this time as a time where they really amp up their rituals, their spiritual energies, and in the case of black magicians, their curses. So be prepared, starting on the equinox, the vernal equinox, which is March 21st, all the way through the end of this equinox of the gods, which would end on April 10th, that there's going to be some really heavy weather spiritually. So let me suggest this. A lot of believers are unaware to a degree of the power of fasting. And I think with all of what's going on in the world, with all of what is happening in the next few weeks that I've just outlined, we need to really do what we can in terms of both prayer and fasting and intercession.